Hello, welcome to Forex Live Talk. I'm Dmitry Kuch. Today we will talk about the Australian employment rate, which has hit 6.4% and even higher amongst young people. With research suggesting that immigrants are filling new jobs, the job market for the young is fairly tough. Secondly, we'll discuss the situation on Forex market, in particular the Australian dollar. Thirdly, we'll finish off the overall health of Australian share market and its future outlook. My guest is today financial expert and professional investment analyst from Australia, Andrew Masters. Hello, Andrew, and welcome to Forex Live Talk.
Hi, Dima. Thanks for having me here.
Okay, Andrew, just please tell us the situation on labor market on Australia, and is it really critical situation on labor market in Australia right now?
Well, Dima, the unemployment rate is at a 10-year high at the moment, rising to 6.4% from 6% last month. And this is due to a number of important factors. The first factor probably is the continuing job losses in the resource sector. As you know, Australia is very reliant on the resource sector, and the continuing decline in prices is taking its toll on the job market there. The second reason is the Senate is unable to approve a $1 million job creation scheme as there is a lot of opposition from the opposition party. And unless they can come to an agreement in the Senate, they will be unable to push this bill through, which is really hurting the job market as well.
Okay, do you expect that unemployment rate will rise in the future?
From our side, I don't really see it rising too dramatically, and one of the reasons are the outlook for commodity or resource prices is not very promising at the moment, which obviously means no new jobs in the resource sector. And the second reason is it's always very hard for our opposition and government to agree on the same policies in the Senate. So until they can get their heads together, I can't really see any change in the nearest future.
How do you how does the current government plan to fulfill the promise to create 1 million new jobs over 5 years next year?
Well, the policy that they need to push through is called the super economic policy, which obviously includes creating a lot of government jobs and just pushing a lot of money into the economy to create even some private jobs. So, as I've already mentioned, unless they get that together, it's pretty much not going to happen.
Let's maybe speak a little bit about the Australian dollar and the situation and Forex market, in particular in Australian dollar. Where do you see the Australian dollar going from here, maybe in next week?
Well, as we can see from today, it's been trading in a pretty tight range between about 92.50 and about 92.70, which was quite unusual because this morning there was the release of the National Australia Bank Business Index Confidence, which rose 8 points, and it's at its highest level since 2010. Now, usually with news like that, the Australian dollar would get a really big boost, but that just shows you the negative sentiment at the moment surrounding the Australian dollar. The Australian dollar's actually been falling continuously for the last week due to more negative news out of Australia and also positive news out of the US. Usually when this happens, people tend to take their money from the Aussie dollar and put it into the US dollar. And as has been big news this week, the US has decided to strike Iraq with airstrikes, which was made by President Obama. And obviously that creates a lot of geopolitical tension. And a lot of investors then will seek out safe haven currencies. And unfortunately, the Aussie is not one of them. We're talking about currencies like the Swiss chief and the US currency. And also the situation in Ukraine. That's a bit of touch and go at the moment. And people are waiting to see how that will pan out.
maybe a few words, if you don't mind, about the share markets. How do you see the situation on the share markets on Australia at the moment?
Well, I see the share market and the Australian dollar pretty closely connected. And what I mean by that is probably the same factors that will affect the currency market or the Australian dollar will affect the Australian share market. Mm-hmm. And from my point of view at the moment, I would push towards economic data coming out of the US and probably geopolitical tensions rather than actually economic numbers coming out of Australia. Mm-hmm. So if we see an escalation in the conflict in Iraq or in Ukraine, mm-hmm. and more positive data coming out of the US economy, I'm sure that that's going to weigh on the Australian dollar and in particularly the Australian share market. Mm-hmm. Maybe one of the bright spots will be is if we see an increase in resource prices. That may help to give a little lift to the Australian dollar, but we think that's a bit of an outside shot.
Mm-hmm. How do you think that situation on commodities market going right now maybe?
Well, the latest numbers out of China show a little bit of a decline in demand for resources. And as you know, they're our biggest export partner. So it's a really worrying sign when the demand in China is dropping. And as the last number said, it actually is. So once again, maybe the outlook is not so positive.
Okay, Andrew, thank you. And maybe one last question for at the moment. As you can see, the gold prices are still under pressure right now. How do you expect that gold prices will rise in the nearest future?
Well, Dim, as you can see over the last couple of weeks, gold has been on a little bit of a roller coaster ride, and it was under quite a lot of pressure last week. But we can see now that it's broken way back through the $1,300 mark. Mm-hmm. I would say about gold that obviously, as I mentioned already, there's quite a bit of geopolitical tension in the world, and one that I haven't mentioned so far is the problem between Israel and the Palestinians, or more importantly, Hamas. Mm-hmm. It just goes to say, if there will be this continued political geo problems in the world, and obviously there's 3 of them at the moment, or 3 serious ones, and none of them are even close to being solved, you'll probably see people run for the safe haven of gold. So there'll probably be a bottom in the price of around 1,300, but will it get to 1,400? It's very possible if we don't have a solution to these 3 conflicts in the nearest future, as people do in fact seek out the safe haven.
How do you expect when it will happen? Maybe in 1 month, maybe in 2 months?
Due to wars, it's really hard to predict that. But I think to make my prediction, they will keep a bottom on the price at around 1,300.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for coming.
Thanks, Tim. Nice to be here.